Hello, everybody. Welcome to 50 Conversations with 50 Strangers. Look at the beautiful stranger I have in front of me. Just everything about the colors, the textures, the feeling, the statue. It's always so intriguing to come into the Zoom room having no idea who will be here and to see who appears before me. In every single case, it's different. In every single case, my preconceived notions of who I think a person is are usually blown away within the first moments. I just got off the phone with someone from Arkansas who is an older woman whose body lives in pain, who is disabled, and you'll hear that conversation right before this one. It'll come out probably later today as well as this one will. And if you look at the people that were in those photos, you'll see completely different people. Completely, one sits at home and just sits and prays and loves the world, but you would never know that from looking at her. And another, I have a feeling, sits and prays and loves the world too, and you would never know that. But it's so beautiful for me to see the way these different people show up. If I were doing a podcast, I would introduce Sara to you and I would tell you her history. I would tell you her bio. But we're not doing a podcast. We're having a conversation. And I don't know anything about Sara except that she's here with us. And she had the courage to have this conversation with me. So Sara, welcome to 50 Conversations with 50 Strangers. And I thank you from the bottom of my heart for showing up. How are you today?
Thank you so much. That's such a warm welcome. Thank you for your time.
It's my honor.
We're speaking the same thing. I just said my honor. It's my honor. Oh, it's an honor.
So tell us about you. Who are you?
So I'm Sara. My parents call me Sahar. I live in BC, Vancouver, BC, Canada. I guess right now I'm working as a spiritual advisor. Is that a tarot card reader? I do acting, so that's my profession. So I act in the film industry. I do spiritual work. I did some entrepreneur work as well, if that's what you call it. So that's why I'm out there in the world.
Beautiful. And what's most important to you?
Yeah, that's such a hard question because really it's so simple. The first thing came to me is, love. But now I sound like, John Lennon. I'm a hippie. Like, all you need is love. Well, it was important then. Maybe it's important now. I don't know.
Has there ever been a time where it hasn't been important?
It depends what perspective you want to bring to this, right? I think maybe the lack of it has become important, that it has affected us.
Tell me what that means.
The lack of remembering that it's important and how the absence of practicing it in our everyday values or being present to it, I think that's what's affecting us as collectively in the bigger picture in humanity, and it affected me personally in my personal and intimate and spiritual life, my mental wellness. The absence of it would affect you greatly, or the absence of your knowledge that it is there. You hear me?
I 100% hear you. What I love about these conversations, and Sara, I love you already because I can feel you already. I'm a little bit of an empath, and I think you are too, because we had an anticipation for this call, and I was looking forward to it, and I was hoping that I wasn't going to be disappointed, because sometimes when I look forward to something, it doesn't show up the way it is. This is showing up in more and better ways than I anticipated, because for you to be so open and vulnerable with me without even knowing me, is that something that's you do normally? Are you that open? And because we've talked about really important things already in the first 2 minutes.
Well, I have to say I wish I could be, or that I wish I could have been. I did this course a while ago about a communication, speaking into the listening, right?
Yes.
And often we become what the listener wants us to be because they project these things on you. And I feel my experience has been that I fought my whole life to fight against people's projections.
Yeah.
You know, that we're constantly not really listening to the person, and people had to fight against my projections of them too. I'm guilty too. But this is all, we're all one mind, and if you would just keep projecting your ideas onto, right? So I don't think I've been able to do that with a lot of people. When I can, I am, but it hasn't always felt like I could.
So do you feel like you can now with me?
Absolutely.
So tell me what it is, because people say that about me, but I don't believe that it's about me. I believe it's about them.
Okay, now we're
Like,
getting, you're trying to untangle that knot now.
I'm just interested because here is this very talented, beautiful woman who has done a lot of different work. You've been an actress. You've been a spiritual person in the world for people, and for you to be able to just instantly, because it was really instantly, it was even before we even met, before you came on here, just from the correspondence that you had with me on in response to my posts, I sort of felt that this was going to be who you are. And so the fact that that happened, what I want to do is for people who aren't able to do that, what
Mm,
shifted? What's the pivot point that allowed you to do that here?
yeah. So really, it's, again, speaking like when you speak into listening, right? The expectation of another, when you vibrate at a certain level, it's all one mind. All humanity can be one mind if you choose, right?
Yeah,
And every moment can be created by the person who instigates that moment, right? We shape our world and our experience, right? We mold and shape our experience.
I love
And
that.
that which, this is getting really sort of experiential.
Yeah, but that's beautiful. Why not?
I want to go more. Yeah, so we mold that. So you molded this. You want to listen, right? So we can create a safer space. You want to create the space. And I was reading some of your stuff in the Mosaic and the other things, where the stories we tell ourselves become our experience and our reality, right? And I
Yes,
think you created this reality. You wanted to create this reality and talk about these things. And I'm kind of on a similar path, and where the similar vibrations and the similar value systems, they attract each other, right? And then they bring forth that which you command, if you have the power to do so.
love
Is
that.
that, are we with, okay?
100% love it. Love
I
it.
don't want to go to
Love it.
abstract.
No, and I love how quickly we moved into something that is so vital, because in the world we live in today, there's so many people that just accept the reality of what the world is,
Yeah.
rather than what you just said.
Hmm.
And so if this podcast were to end right now and people were to listen to what you just said, and that's the only thing they got from it, it's not going to end right now because we have a lot more to talk about,
Oh, good.
right? But if it were to end right now, it would already be worth their while to just hear what you said. Because for those of you who are listening, do you even buy into the idea that you can create your reality and you can recreate the world you live in? Do you buy into the thought that what you put out to the world is what you can receive from the world?
Hmm.
Do you even buy the idea that your energy can magnetize people to you that will help you and in a benevolent world? Or do
Hmm.
you just believe we live in a world which is against us and we have to fight against it? And we have to do all these things and we have to stand up and talk about our point of view and we have to tell people what we believe and we have to put other people down and right? Like, what world do you believe you live in?
Correct.
Because if what Sarah is saying is true, which I 100% agree with, by the way, then we do not have to live in a world that doesn't fit our reality.
Hmm.
I think Wayne Dyer said one time, when you change the way you look at the world you look at changes.
One of my first influences in this was
Oh, really?
you grabbed that out of my aura, didn't you?
Maybe. He was a dear friend of mine for a few years. I brought
No way! Oh my god!
I yeah I for one when I worked at Hay House, one of the things that I did and initially was I created these conferences, and we were looking for people to speak with Louise Hay and this guy by the name of Swami Kriyananda, who was part of the community that I was a part of, and Louise Hay was Hay House. And so we came together with the thought of let's create these conferences, and we needed a few other people. And so they said, we're too busy to do this. I said, I'm not. I'm happy to do it. I love doing this type of stuff. And we got a woman that was on sort of the downward end of her. She had reached the top and was coming down. Her name was Shakti Gawain, but she was still pretty well known. She had done something called Creative Visualizations, a book. And I found a guy that the publishing house didn't even know how to say his name. He called himself, they called him Wayne Dwyer, but he was Wayne Dyer. They were giving him $1 million advances and they didn't even know how to say his name. And then I found another guy that Bantam Book said would be an up and coming, and they promised me he was a good speaker and would be well known. His name was Deepak Chopra. And so we brought the five of them together and had a full day
Wow.
conference with them for $35 a person. And we sold out of the hall in like 17 minutes
I
of
missed out. I totally missed
3,000
out on
people.
all this. Like, holy, where was I?
Um, what makes you happy?
Ah, you mean which part of me are you talking to? um, Here, I'll say what makes me happy. Do you want to expand on your question, or should I just?
I anywhere you want to go with it, I'm happy to. What makes you happy emotionally? What makes you happy physically? What makes you happy spiritually? What makes you happy?
Oh, it's a good question because I had lived my life in such an being so unhappy, so much of it,
Wow.
that for me it became really important to seek happiness, right? And quality of life, I guess, right? So like knowing that I have freedom and power, those kinds of things. But then I realized having anything at all doesn't matter if you cannot have a dialogue with yourself that is a happy dialogue,
Yes.
right? I was listening to a meditation a couple of days ago that my sister sent me, and I turned it off because I was getting annoyed with it. But he was saying something really, really interesting. He says, I am that which is experiencing the thing.
Huh.
Instead of I am sad, I am happy. I am that which experiences it. I am not sad. I am not happy. I am that I am experiencing sad.
Yeah.
I am experiencing happy. So am I my experience or am I, so I was like, oh, I get to choose,
I
right?
like
Like,
that.
so it's up to me what I experience. So I'm experiencing sad. So am I, what makes me happy? I guess I like dancing, right? My expression of joy is to dance, in arts, right? To express artistically, to receive arts, to receive music, to listen to music gives me joy. Nature gives me joy. Helping people gives me great joy. Personally, me, right?
Yeah.
Does
Yeah.
it make me happy? I don't know. That depends on me.
Yeah. I love it. So you lobbed something over the net, and I just want to go to it because for someone looking at you, they see a beautiful woman in a beautiful environment. And you said something that really just touched me and it glossed over it. And you don't have to go here. You can just say, I don't want to talk about it because this is our conversation to make any way we want. But you spoke of being unhappy for so much time. What was the cause of your unhappiness?
Well, some of the dialogue I had made up from the suffering my family had seen, right? Uh, I was born in a country called Afghanistan,
Yes.
and in 1979, now you know how old I am, which was a time where of great turmoil and upheaval there. There was a coup, military coup, all the different regimes were at odds with each other. The part that my parents, my parents were kind of like part of a semi-noble family, and they were educated, so they were kind of involved in the wrong team at the time. But we had to exit out because people
Yeah.
were getting lynched. They were disappearing. This very difficult situation. So I don't want to get too much detail, but out of the experience of being a refugee from this godforsaken country, right? Like what
Yes.
this turmoil, war-torn country, my parents ended up, bringing us from Germany to Germany. To live there, get educated there. Then I brought me to Canada, started a business here, all of that, nursed me to success, you see, or whatever. And I believed throughout that time that I was God forsaken. At some point, some experiences happened to me, and my mom was crying, and success was just out of reach, and it was a constant fight for them, right? And she was getting terminally ill. My dad was PTSD from getting tortured, like whatever. I'm not saying
Right. No, you had real reasons. Those are real reasons.
maybe. And as a child, I was vicariously experiencing these traumas. I
Yeah.
was safe, but I got this thing in my mind that God had forsaken me. So I'm
Yeah.
not into like monotheism or polytheism or any kind of God, new ageism. I'm not going to go into like defining that, but at that age, I didn't even know the first thing, but God had forsaken me and my kind.
Yeah. Yeah.
No matter what I did, anything I have or happiness I had would get taken from me. So why bother?
Yeah.
Why bother trying, right?
Yeah.
So, and I didn't really realize that I had been living with this subconscious belief, and I had continued to be just in a lot of pain,
Yeah.
right? With this belief that God hates me.
Yeah.
And was somehow striking, whatever, life hates me. So it was a great challenge for me to redefine that story,
Yeah.
because this was the story I was telling myself. This was the dialogue that I was telling myself, right? That just forget about it. Just forget about like the happy
Yeah.
life. What's that? Like that's for other people. That's not for me. Ain't gonna happen. God forsaken me,
Yeah.
right? Like why bother? Why bother? So then I started doing this kind of uh, transformational work and stuff. And if I got to define that, right, I was doing some hypnotherapy of all things to redefine this belief, And if I changed out a few words in that story, like your teaching with the Mosaic, if I changed out a few of those words as God hates me, well, God loves me. I'm
Yeah.
cursed. I'm blessed,
Yeah.
right? Like, what if I told that story and I look back on my life with the story, I'm blessed. I'm blessed with parents who saved me, who
Yes.
brought me somewhere safe, who educated me, right? Uh, God loves me. What are you talking? Look where I live. Look how my life is, like how my life has been, the privileges I've enjoyed through life. Uh, God must really love me, or whatever it is. I don't want to impose this belief on anyone.
No,
But
but I almost want you to, because in the world that we live in right now, it's so easy to play victim.
yeah,
And it really is just a few words. Like you said, it's just changing a few words of the story. When we realize that we're the author of our own story, that the chapters ahead of before of us may have been not very happy, but we have the chance to write, to turn the page and write the next chapter. It doesn't mean we give up those chapters. We honor those chapters, we respect those chapters, we get what we got from it. But now we're writing this chapter. What does this chapter look like? And we can always decide what words we use to write this chapter. You and I share so much similarity, because as I write in the Mosaic, that's my story. It's fableized, but it's my story. It's the story about a boy who loses his parents 2 years apart on the same day. And that day was July 4th. It's American Independence Day.
Wow.
And my dad died when I was 13 and my mom died when I was 15.
My goodness.
And I had exactly those same thoughts that you had. God hates me. God's forsaken me. Why would he take my dad was my hero. We would walk down and we would go to the beach and walk down the boardwalk. And I was like 3 feet tall and he was 6'1" or something. And I would hold his ring finger and people would literally stop on their bikes and stop walking to just look at us because we had the same bodies, we had the same gait, we had the same look, we had the same way of moving. But I was just a mini me version of him. And it was so noticeable that people would notice it. So he was my hero. So I thought, why would you take my hero from me for no reason? Why would I just lose him? And then my mother, 2 years apart on the same day. So the feeling, even though our situations are completely different, the geographic locations of what we experience are completely different. The reasons for why we experience are completely different.
Mm-hmm.
The feeling is completely the same.
Yeah.
And I so admire you for just having the openness to share that. Because in the moment of that transformation from God didn't hate me, look at what happened as a result of all that. God loves me. What a beautiful way to tell the rest of your story. I think you and I could talk for a long time. Let me ask you a few questions in like a lightning round if I can, okay? You don't have to answer quickly, but I'm just going to ask short questions, either or.
Copy that.
Okay. Are you a dog person or a cat person?
Oh. Oh. I don't know. Okay, I'll choose one.
You can
One.
you can be a neither person if you don't like.
I like both, but I don't have either.
Okay. All right. Um, Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Coffee. Good. Would you say you're a person that is in the box or out of the box?
Oh, out of the box. Way, way out. What box?
I love that. Tell me more about that. We'll pop out of the lightning round for a minute. Tell me about that.
Well, I feel I've always felt like people say, oh, maybe my father was an engineer, turned into a pilot. My mom was more on the law side and more into literature and stuff like that, but not more science oriented family. So I was like, no, but that's not fun. The arts are fun, right? That's where the real inspiration. So they were like, oh no, my daughter is gonna ruin her life, right? So that was the first experience of that.
Yeah.
After, of course, just time and time again, the only odd one out, the only brown girl in an all-white rich German school, right? Like
Yeah.
it just, and it kept verifying to me that, on one hand, oh, I'm so special. I get all this special attention from being so different, whether it's being bullied, that's special attention, or whether that's getting asked a lot of questions by strangers.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I was like, but then again, I also don't quite see eye to eye with a lot of, like, the one thing I've always feared is to be average.
Yes. Yes. Wow. Beautiful. Do you feel both of these are going to be important? So, but I want to ask you to choose one if you can.
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel it's more important for you to have the place where you can speak your voice and be heard? Or is it more important for you to hold the space for other people to speak their voice and have you be somebody who listens to them?
This is a good question. I always think I got a lot to say, but then I realize it's just what everybody else wants to say too.
Okay.
And they want someone to understand that. And I do, and I would like to have more people feel like that.
That you understand them?
Or
Yeah.
hear them or whatever, like create that space is so important. Like what you're doing is
Yeah.
so important to the world. Who's doing that?
Well,
People.
you're doing it right. You're doing it right now too.
No, we need to. That's very necessary.
I love that. I love that. So, jumping out again for a minute, knowing you have a voice and you have a powerful voice. Did I hear you say you were an actor, that you're
Mhm.
did you have a chance to express your voice through acting?
My personal voice?
Yeah. Were you well known enough as an actress to be able to be given voice?
No, no, I'm not famous.
Okay. Okay. So imagine for a moment that right now you are famous, right here in this room with me,
Mhm.
that someone looks up to you and really is interested in what you want to say. What is it you would want to tell me?
It's the weirdest thing. It just came over me that I wanted you to know that you are loved.
Oh, that's beautiful. Thank you. And why did you get so emotional when you said that?
I think everybody wants to feel that way, and for the most part, the world hasn't given that to them, to anyone. Humanity itself hasn't given it to itself.
Yeah.
Mainly, I think our existence on the planet is just so dichotomous and mysterious that, right? Do you know what I mean? Our existence itself.
100%. Yeah.
So we won't even give it to each other. We don't give it to ourselves or our children. I think we all, the space of that would change a lot in the world. And I don't know what welled me up. I think it's the feeling of the entire, like, of all of us just not feeling enough love, you know?
Yeah. It's so interesting that you say that because I've had a very diverse life. I've been able to sit with some of the richest people in the world, not in auditoriums with them, but at their dining room tables or in their living rooms. I've been able to meet their families, their parents, and their children. They've been kind enough to ask my counsel, and they've been kind enough to give me their counsel. Not because they were teaching or one was teaching another, just as friends, we were talking to each other. And we would offer our opinions and our points of view to each other. And it was beautiful to hear that and get that and to be a part of that. And I've also been privileged enough to be able to sit on street corners with some of the poorest of the poor
Mm-hmm.
and have exactly that same thing happen, where they've been kind enough to let me know them, to share with me their counsel, and to occasionally ask my counsel. And as friends, just to be able to speak with each other and talk to each other and hear each other.
Mm-hmm.
And Sarah, one of the things that's been the most impressive, important thing that I realized is something you just said. Every single one of them, no matter how rich, no matter how poor, no matter what color their skin, no matter what border they lived behind, no matter what religion they practiced, no matter what political party they were a part of, no matter how much they had or didn't have, they all wanted the same things. They wanted to be loved and accepted. They wanted to be listened to and heard.
Mm-hmm.
They wanted to be acknowledged for what they believed and validated for having those beliefs.
Mm-hmm.
Not one person in my whole life ever said to me, Danny, it's important that you agree with me. They didn't care. When they felt loved and accepted and listened to and heard and acknowledged and validated, they knew I had the right to my own belief systems. They didn't want it was enough.
Mm-hmm.
And we became beautiful friends because we could do that for each other. So I love what you're saying and I so support you in it. Are you someone who feels like you fit into the world, or do you feel like you've always been different?
Never ever felt like I fit in.
Oh, oh. It's so interesting. One of the answers that I get continually, and it might just be that the people that are drawn to answer my posts are all a similar type of people, but I don't. They haven't been very similar. But none of them feel like they fit in. Very rarely do I get one person that says they fit in. And I wonder if you have any insight in this. If we all feel different,
Hmm.
Why do we feel so bad about being different?
Because we've been eyebrow beaten into believing that we don't belong here and we are not lovable, and we have a lot of very weird beliefs installed, right? It's all installed. Like we have like we install these subconscious beliefs that are not nice. They're not, we're not nice to ourselves or to anyone else.
Who installs them?
Good question.
Every once in a while, a blind squirrel catches a nut. I get to get a good question in every once in a while, right?
There's no unique thought, is what I've been told by someone. I don't know, but I do know thought itself is something that exists. And you catch one here and catch one there. It's like you catch a disease or a virus.
What if every thought was a unique thought?
Same thing.
So, knowing now the way we spoke about God hates me and God loves me, how would the world change if there went from there is no unique thought to every thought is a unique thought?
Well, so those two concepts kind of, in my mind, cancel each other out, which give the freedom to creating your own thoughts, right? And to choosing what thoughts you think, whether it's unique or not, because it's yours.
Yes.
It would empower people to choose what thoughts you invest in, and which ones you install and download, or whatever you want to decorate your brain in. You can choose how you want to frame anything.
Love it. Do you feel that your life is led through your head or through your heart?
Yeah, I want to pride myself on being intellectual. Like I want to be here. I think this works, but it doesn't lead me ever. I've tried to, but it doesn't work because it just makes this so sad
Yeah.
when I go by it more. So it's really I'm more heart-centered, just much more passionate that way.
Yeah. Everything. It's interesting because the stories that I make up about people, but when I sit with people, I'm a little bit empathic, as you are. And so I feel people, and everything that I feel from you is so much that you're a heart person and you're a place that goes from that passion and that love. So why would a person that is so heart driven want so badly to have their head rule their life?
Well, I guess that's what we praise. Everybody tells me the good way is the logical way, right? Like, and I do believe in logic and reason,
Yeah.
right? It is part of the facility that makes me function very well, right? But I guess I feel that the previous paradigm, if I can use that word, or
Sure.
existing paradigm that we function in, really praises this part of us. You go to school and they say, memorize this and memorize that and use your noodle, and like really operates from here and basically destroys and annihilates anything else, any imagination that you might have. They try to box the imagination in. And your
Yeah.
feelings, oh, you can profit from your imagination. Here you have an imagination, here go make money and draw, right? Like in
Right.
school the system does this boxing in of people. Where does the heart come in? I don't, like, where is it in the system, in the paradigm? Does it get celebrated? Oh, this person's having emotions, they're emotional. We don't celebrate that.
You would love my wife because her byline for the work that she does is trust in the power of your heart.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Because we've been so taught that the power of our being is in our mind.
Yeah.
But the heart really has its own set of intelligence that is so much more intelligent than the intelligence of our heads. And so I believe that the new paradigm, because you use the word, is the paradigm of the feminine. The masculine is, to all the men out there, I'm sorry to say this, our time's coming to an end.
The time of man is over.
I believe that's a new paradigm of the woman is coming. And the feminine energy is the feminine energy of love. It's the feminine energy of receiving. It's the feminine energy of not fighting, but just allowing ourselves to absorb and receive and be in the energies of each other and come together. So it may not have a place in the world that we've known, but I believe the heart has a huge place in the place that's coming. And I believe that you have power in your heart to help facilitate that. And I would love to see you not just say because it hasn't been here that it doesn't have any place in here for you, because it has a lot of place and you can feel it.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
I really enjoy. Yeah, I don't want to say I agree with you, because it's just such a shallow term to what I feel you. Is that a way?
100%.
I feel you when I'm with you.
Yes, 100%. Would you say you're a leader or a follower?
Both.
Talk to me.
Well, in some ways I'm total follower. I don't want to think about certain things. I'm like, okay, we'll do this, then we'll all show up here at this time. I don't even want anything to do with it. Certain things. And other things, I would say, I set the tone a lot. Like, it just seems like I would walk into a party or something, and I would set the tone of the party, change the mood of the party, change the tone of the party. Change the tone of my lovers. So I think there's leadership in that. Or, when my friends break down emotionally, they come to me and tell me, I'm like, okay, let's get you through this, right?
Yeah.
And then in other ways, I'm like, well, no, you lead me. I don't want to drive right now. I don't want to worry about that, right? In acting, you don't drive the boat. You follow with, total complicit trust.
Yeah.
Is that the right word? Complicit? Incomplicit? Whatever.
Yeah, complicit trust is good.
Blind trust.
So for people who, like let's use your terminology, I so feel you. Okay. All right. And for people who are like us, that know that we can walk into a room and change the feeling of the room when we walk into the room. There are so many people who don't feel that. They walk into the room and they get affected by the vibration and the energies of the room. They walk in and they just feel, oh, it's not a nice place. And they get angry and they start fighting, or they feel affected by the things that are happening around them. Mm-hmm. Is there something you could share with somebody that could say, you don't have to do that? You can walk in and you can affect the room. You can lift the room up.
Absolutely. There, often, because we're all one thought, right? Like, it's one thought, like we are always in each other's eyes, right? With your empty cup, right? Your cup's full, empty, whatever. Is there space? What's filling your cup? Who's filling your cup? Most of us are empaths. Like, if you say you're an empath, I'm an empath. Unless you're a complete narcissist, you're probably not feeling your own feelings, and you're probably not feeling your own thoughts or thinking your own thoughts. It's probably all someone else's. So when you get angry and you don't know why, it's probably someone else. Right? Wow. Right? And if you think yourself, oh, I hate this, there's probably that other guy that's having a problem with his wife. Like, so a lot of us are deeply empathic. Yeah. And we're constantly getting, we are these vessels that are constantly getting filled with downloads. Yeah. And, check what's coming in, and is it yours?
Love that. Do you think we tend to be more similar to each other than different, or more different from each other than similar?
Oh, oh no, what rabbit hole do you want to go to now?
I'll follow you. You just go.
Because that's such a, Okay, you know, because in the end, again, we are all so deeply empathic. We are only what we see in the what is somebody's in the eyes of another, right? On one hand, we are only in the eyes of another. So if that person thinks you're super different, yeah, you're super different, right?
So I'm going to stay. I'm going to ask you to question that if I can. Can I ask you a question that?
Mhm.
Not because I don't agree with you, but because I'd love to just feel you out on this.
Mhm.
I'm super empathic. I can feel people. I mean, I felt you before you even had this conversation, right? You felt me before we had this conversation. We know what that's like, okay? But that doesn't mean that I am surrendering all that I am into your thought of who I am.
Mhm.
I still hold the space of this is who I am. I can feel you. I can
Yeah.
see energy around you.
Mhm.
I can even enter you. But that doesn't mean I lose myself in my entering you, or that
Mhm.
you lose yourself in entering me.
Mhm.
If you think about a mosaic, for instance, just because it happens to be the book here and the image, it's not what I talk about in the book, but a mosaic is made up of many little pieces
Mhm.
that all are their own piece,
Mhm.
that all have their own piece,
Mhm.
but come together with other pieces to make something even more beautiful. They don't lose the presence of their piece by being a piece of something greater.
Totally, 100%.
And so put those pieces together for me, because either you made a shift in what you believe right there, or there's something I didn't hear in what you initially believed.
Well, I think reality is defined by your experience, right? So if I believe that I'm super different, then I will be super different.
Okay,
And
I agree with
essentially,
that.
all of us believe, oh, I'm so different, I don't fit in, right?
Yeah, yeah,
And I don't belong. And here we are as a human species, right?
yeah.
And we are all the same. We all feel each other's thoughts. We are all thinking human beings, like, feeling human beings who are essentially the same but different. And oh, here's the mosaic. Oops, here's a good analogy. We fit into that as one.
Yeah.
So my core belief is that we are all one, right? But it depends on whether that's your experience or not. That's why I was saying, what rabbit hole do you want to take me down? Are we
Gotcha.
essentially different or are we the same? Well, both.
Yeah, I gotcha. I gotcha.
Depends on.
Okay, I understand better now. Um, how are you right now?
Oh,
To someone who's really interested, like we answer that so easily with fine or good or but I'm interested in how you are right now. How are you feeling right this minute?
oh, I'm kind of having a really beautiful experience.
Is that normal for you?
No, no, not normal. It just depends who I hang out with.
Okay.
Yes, it is. I give myself that experience sometimes. Some people do, but of course, it's in your hearing, right? It all depends. Again, like, here's the listening where that comes in. You speak into the listening, and then that leads you to different parts of your mind, right? So some conversations will never go there.
Yeah.
So of course, it's always in the presence of another that you experience things often. It's in your experience, in the experience of being in your presence. Jeez, is that?
So I want to thank you for all of that and tell you that I think that it's in the experience of your own presence that you feel that something about being here and feeling whatever you feel has allowed you to come out and be who you are, which is this really beautiful, beautiful human being that is not only physically beautiful, but is beautiful inside. And that just as you said to me, that I want you to know how loved you are, and tears came to your eyes, I think tears came to your eyes because you finally felt in that moment when you were saying it to me, that you and I were the same and you were talking to yourself.
Something like that.
Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah. And I want you to know how loved you are. And I want you to know that if a perfect stranger or an imperfect stranger like myself can see that so instantaneously in you, that the world can see it in you too. And I want you to see it in you too, which you do. Does that make sense?
Thank you. Absolutely.
Absolutely. Sara, given the space here of someone who really is interested in what you have to say and gives you an open chalkboard to say whatever you want to say, what do you want to tell this world that we're living in right now?
It's all love, man. And
We're back to John Lennon. Is that what's going on?
the person that most authentically expressed that to me was a man in Hawaii who plays a ukulele. And it seems so simple and so unsophisticated, and I want to put layers of myself on this, but that's right now in this moment.
Yeah.
Unless you can come from that place, I think that's, if you can come from that place and create that space, and in your heart and in your soul, between yourself and another person and any other person, and if you can impart this to any communication, that you take part in, I think that would change the world.
Yeah. I so agree with you. And it feels to me like I want to, we're going to go over. Are you okay with going over a little bit?
Okay, well, what time is it?
It's 12:50 here. So
Okay, yeah.
we've gone over a little bit, but I just somehow want to share with you. I have the person who has influenced my life more than anybody. And I've sat with amazing teachers and amazing leaders and amazing people in this world, has been my daughter. And my daughter is 30 years old now, and she's developmentally delayed. And she can't have a conversation like this with me. And most of the time when she speaks, people don't understand her. But she counts on me to understand her because she knows how close I feel to her. And most times, honestly, most times I do understand her. I don't know how it happens, but most of the times I do get it. But Sara, sometimes I don't. And when I don't, what she does is she yells. And she says it louder, just so thinking that I maybe just haven't heard it. But it wasn't the volume that kept me from hearing it. It was the clarity of her words, that I just couldn't understand her words. And when she would yell and I wouldn't understand it, she would go into tantrum because she just wanted so badly for me to get it. But I just couldn't get it. And so now she was tantruming about things that I couldn't understand, which made it even harder to understand. And when she would tantrum and I still didn't get it, she would come and run at me and try and rip my shirt or bite me or do something. She would attack me. And I think that I'm pretty smart. I tested in school with a genius IQ, and people said, you're pretty smart. You have a good head on your shoulders. I just couldn't figure this out. It went on for about 15 years, sometimes as many as 2, 3, 4, 10 times a day. She would go through this series of pattern of behaviors. Until one time, I just was so worn out that I said to her, Elisa, I love you more than anything in the world. You know how badly I want to understand you, but I just can't understand your words. Will you please try and communicate to me in a way that doesn't use words? And she looked at me, and her rage turned into this beautiful smile. And her smile melted my soul. And she looked at me, and in perfect English, she said, I am Daddy. And I said, What? What are you talking about? You are Daddy. Like, how in the world are you doing that? Why didn't you let me know? How are you trying to do that for me? And she put her finger to the side of her head like this, which made me understand that because she couldn't speak, she was able to telepathically put thoughts into my head. And I had felt that she was doing that, but I just didn't trust it because I didn't even know if her mind was capable of thinking thoughts like that. And I said to her, You little son of a gun, have you been putting thoughts into my head? And she laughed, this contagious laugh of all the freedom being left off of her, of just all this sense of, boy, he understands me finally. And I got caught in her contagious laughter, and together we laughed for about 10 or 15 minutes, which seemed like it was forever. And when we stopped laughing, she never tantrumed again. She never attacked me again. She never yelled again. Because she knew now how to get through to me. Sarah, if the story would have been just that story, I would have been exquisitely happy. But what I realize is every single person that I meet does exactly the same thing. When they speak and they don't get heard, they speak louder, they yell. When they yell and they don't get heard, they create tension and chaos, and they try and create a scene around what they're doing. When that scene doesn't work, they end up destroying something. It could be blowing up a building, it could be shooting a town square, it could be ruining a marriage, it could be trying to ruin the reputation. They try and destroy something. And it's so easy. A 30-year-old developmentally delayed girl taught me that all we have to do is listen, because if we would listen, there'd be no reason to yell, there'd be no reason to tantrum, there'd be no reason to attack. What do you think? First of all, what do you think of that? Do you agree with that?
Yeah, 100%.
So, what do you think the world's trying to say to us right now that it had to yell, scream, tantrum, and start to attack?
It's obvious nobody's listening.
Nobody's listening. So, if we were listening, what would it want to say to us? What do you think it would want to say to us?
The world or the
Yeah.
human world, you mean?
The world at first in general, and then secondly, I'm going to ask you, what do you think it wants to say to you personally?
Well, you're opening another rabbit hole because,
Come on
again,
in.
again, I would say it depends on your filter, right? How do you want to? But I think the world would really love to say is "I love you," right?
Yeah.
I think everybody wants to say "I love you," and everybody wants to hear "I love you,"
Yeah.
right?
Love that.
But the absence of that is what's causing this turmoil. They want to say "I love you."
And is that what it's saying to you also?
Yeah, as of my transformation of my belief that God hates me. So I don't want to sound like a guru, like I believe in love, all this. I've been on the other side of this,
Yeah.
right? So when I go to the other side, it's because I know it, right? It doesn't mean I have to buy into it. Absolutely.
Fabulous.
Everything wants to be loved and be loved. Not because, I'm in that space all day.
If people want to love you and be loved by you, how can they reach out to you and find you?
You can find me online.
Okay.
I have a website there. It's called thegoddesssystem.com.
Okay.
So it has all the S's there, the three S's, the goddess, two S's, and then system again. Where my free ebook is available and sessions with me are available.
Fabulous. Will you do me a favor and send me the links and send me your social media links after we get off?
Absolutely.
Will you also send me a headshot of you so I can make this live for us soon?
Yeah.
Um, I want to thank you.
Oh, thank you. Can I get the same from you? I have a lot of yours, but I need a
Yes,
headshot. I don't know which one you want.
absolutely. I only got one head.
Well, the short.
I'll happily send it to you. It's got a lot of hair on it, but I'll happily send it to you. So, in closing, I just want to say thank you so much for taking your time, and not only just taking your time, but giving your heart, and for showing up really authentically and vulnerably and real. And what a pleasure that is to meet somebody who I didn't 18 minutes ago I didn't even know existed, and to leave this conversation feeling you in my heart, and to be able to consciously, honestly say to you, I love you, Sarah. And for you to know that's true because you feel it.
Thank you.
You're so welcome.
I love you too.
Thank you.
It's been an honor.
For those of you who are listening to this conversation, I hope you'll enjoy it. I hope you'll share it with other people. I hope you'll feel inspired by it to reach out to someone you don't know and invite them to have a conversation. Stranger things have happened than meeting a stranger and falling in love with them in a few moments. Allow yourself that possibility. For those of you who are listening who feel like you'd like to have a conversation or know somebody else who would like to have a conversation, please have them get in touch with me. I want to continue having these conversations with strangers and see where it all goes. Thank you again, Sarah.
Thank you.
Thank you to everyone listening.
Yeah, thank you, everybody. All my love to you.
And all of Sarah's information and social media links and website will be on in the show notes. Until next time, don't be a stranger. Reach out to somebody and offer to have a conversation with them. Ciao.